I was still depressed. I was still searching for like relationships, to try to like make me happy and stuff. And so I remember there was a point where I put Renee on child support and I said, we're going to separate. Like, we cannot do this. It's not working out. I was really bitter towards him because for many years I wanted him to just be at home with us, and he wasn't. So I was very angry. I was very depressed.
Welcome to One Way Podcast. I'm your host, Angel Ariola, and today we have Miss Angie with us. And so thank you for being here. But she's gonna share, her testimony, everything God's been doing in her life. And so, real quick, you just start off by telling us how long you've been saved and how did you come to the church?
Okay, so we got saved May 2004. So it's been a while. We got invited to church by my husband's old coworker. So he was living in the same apartments we were living in, and he gave him a flyer. We kind of thought about it, but we weren't planning on going, but we ended up going, thank God. But that's how we got saved.
That's
how we went to church. Yeah.
And that was in 2004. Wow. Okay. All right. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How'd you grow up? You from here? All that good stuff.
Yes. I actually grew up in the west side of San Antonio. I was raised with both my parents. So I'm the second oldest, and I have an older sister and 3 younger brothers. I went to the west side schools. I guess I would probably say I was like we were a typical west side family. There was parties on the weekend and stuff, but I was really close to my mom, so she didn't party, she didn't smoke, she didn't drink, none of that stuff. So I guess I was never really too much interested in that. I did go maybe to parties here and there, but nothing really like where, I was always high or drunk or nothing like that. Yeah.
Right. And your parents were together?
Mm-hmm. They're still together.
Right.
Yeah.
Did they raise you all in church or no?
No, we didn't know anything about salvation or God really. I think when our younger years, we're, I guess, Catholic because we went to Catholic church, but I never really liked Catholic church because it was very strict. We couldn't like laugh or smile, nothing. Like we would get in trouble. Like just sit down, stand up when they tell you.
Right.
We were really like, I just didn't like it because it was just, there was no fun there, no joy. It was like very boring and very strict, and I didn't like it. And we didn't know anyone. We would just go in, sit down, stand up, sit down, then leave. And so I never really liked it. But again, we went when we were younger. I remember my mom kind of being interested in Christian churches. I don't know how she got invited, but I remember like middle school years, she started wanting to go to Christian churches. And so I didn't want her to be by herself because I said we were really close. So I was like, yeah, I'll go with you, Mom. Not because I was looking for God, not because I wanted anything to do with God, just so she wouldn't be alone. So I remember going, and I saw a big difference compared to like a Catholic church. But I was obviously not saved at all. I didn't dress good at all. So obviously I wasn't a Christian, but no one ever approached me. I remember we went to 3 or 4 separate ones on the west side, and no one ever talked to me. No one ever really told me about salvation. I had no understanding about my sin or anything. I just went to church. I would go in with my mom, come out. Nothing really changed. But again, I wasn't broken or looking for God. So maybe I was just not paying attention to it. I don't know. But that's when I got introduced to Christianity. But my mom never lived as a Christian.
Right.
She was just, I guess, a good person. I guess the downside about being a good person on the west side is you see everybody like druggies and broken people, so you kind of be like, you become proud, like, which is sin in itself. It's sin,
Right.
So you think that you're kind of better than other people, which makes you kind of worse because your sin's in your heart and it's so wicked, but you just look down on people,
Right.
But so that's when I started kind of going to the churches with my mom, but I never got saved.
And your dad, did he attend the Catholic church too or no?
Yeah, he did. He attended. My dad, he went to church with us to the Catholic church. He was never. I never was really close to my dad, but he was a great example in like being a hard worker. I never saw my dad like being lazy at home, or he was always working, doing something around the house. Monday through Saturday, he worked. My dad full time worked. He always provided for us. So I had that stability. I never saw my mom with other men. I never saw, so it was, I would say it was a pretty good
Right,
for
right.
not being Christians, because I was taught some things. Like my mom told me as a young girl, she told me, don't share your body with anyone. Once you're with someone, you're with them forever. So don't. And that's great advice. I mean, of course, it's fornication if you're not saved, but I mean that stuck in the back of my head when I was a little girl, and I always thought about that.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe someone told her that, but so I remember that. So I mean, I had relationships, I had boyfriends, but I was like, no, to an extent, because I was like, no, I'm not gonna like mess around like that.
Right.
But I mean, my dad was there. He was there. He was present, but I just didn't really have a relationship with him.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And did that ever did that affect you like as far as like your relationship with your dad or anything like that? Because sometimes you hear a lot like kids not having their parents or father that, and sometimes they just act out. But was that like that for you?
I would say yes, because, well, in the sense that he didn't really, I don't remember him being like an affectionate father where he's like, how are you? How was your day?
Mm.
And that really makes a difference in a girl's life, especially affection. Like we need affection from our dads. We just need it, and I didn't really have that, or at least I don't remember having that. So you crave that attention, you crave it, and of course if you don't get it at home, you're going to get it from the world. And I got it, from different guys, and I was always in a relationship. I was never by myself, and I thought that was the norm. Like I couldn't be without having a boyfriend, because in my mind that was keeping me like fulfilled. Not really, but and so yeah, we do crave it.
Right.
Young girls need their dad's affection. Yeah, definitely.
And so your parents then you have like boyfriend and all that. Did they ever was it like just normal like because everybody else is doing it, or is just did they ever tell you don't have boyfriends or any of that?
My dad my dad would be like, okay, so only 3 guys can call. So he would like answer the phone, and because back then there wasn't cell phone, he would like write their name down. He'd be like, okay. And so if another guy, like a fourth guy, would call, he's like, no, you're not on the list, you can't call my daughter. Like he would be like, they were, I guess, kind of strict, or tried to be strict.
Right.
They were, but I lied to them so much. I was a wicked liar. So I would tell them I couldn't go to parties, but I would lie to them, tell them I'm going to go to my friend's house and hang out, and I would go to a party. So it's not like they were trying to be strict, but I don't know why they trusted me. I was such a liar. Right. So, I mean, I would do things, of course, behind their back and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Did your mom work or no?
Nope. She always stayed home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I never saw her working. Yeah. She would stay home and take care of us.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us, like when would you say like you started I guess being like, hey, could you say did you ever like rebel and none of that? Were you ever like that like as a teenager? Like
well, I mean, my mom, I kind of did what I wanted as much as I thought I wanted. Right. So, I mean, not really. I would just lie to them. So I would do what I wanted right. behind their back, So I was a rebel,
right,
a straight up rebel. But, I mean, I liked school. I wasn't like, I didn't have bad grades or anything. I had really good grades. I was going to Memorial High School, and I was in a health careers type thing. And I really wanted to be a nurse. Like, I really wanted to be a nurse. I wanted to be in the medical field. So I was like, I'm going to do that because they had that there. But then I met kind of in beginning of high school, I met Renee. And that's when I just started like skipping school and stuff. And I would lie to them. I wouldn't go to school all day, and I would just be at his house. So I started doing a lot of stupid stuff when I met, So
this is like what, 15, 16 years old?
I was about 15, yeah, because I got pregnant when I was 16. So we were together for about a year, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And how'd y'all meet?
So we met at Memorial. He was like, I think he was supposed to be a senior. I think he was a 10th grader. But he was like in this gang, and all my friends were in the opposite gang. But, I mean, Memorial back then, everybody was in the gang. So, like, it wasn't, I mean, you had some, like, jocks and some people that were kind of into school. But for the most part, the people we hung out with were either or. It was, like, enemies. So I had a lot of friends who didn't like him, but I liked him. So I would, like, my friend kind of tried to get us together. And then he went to TYC, I think, for a little bit. And then he came out and we started talking. And that's how we met. And then I think he got expelled from school but I was still going to school.
Right.
Yeah, and then we met up like that.
And what did your parents think of Renee?
I don't even think they thought any. He was just another boyfriend. Like he never. Um, it's kind of crazy because it's like they would try to teach me certain things, but I mean, again, if my dad would tell me anything, I'm like, Dad, you're like high all the time. I didn't really take him too serious like that. So there are some things, some good things they taught me, but for the most part, I mean, I remember when I found out I was pregnant, my mom was like, but why? I trusted you. And in my mind, I'm like, why did you trust me? Like, don't trust me. No, I was a liar. I was a wicked little liar. Why did you trust me for? But, yeah, I don't know why they did that.
Right.
But
I wonder if like they were doing it like, just trying to be like telling you to do something, but they really weren't like following, really like being like content with, like not content, but like consistent with discipline. Did they discipline you?
right. Oh yeah, I got whooped.
Really?
I got
Wow.
spanked. Yeah, I did. But see, we know as Christians, like being spanked, you can't just spank. You can't just discipline. There has to be love there. Like,
Right.
and so my father was more of like he would just spank me. So I didn't have that like I love you or like I'm spanking you because I love you or explain it to me. He was just like I was really afraid of my dad. Like he did. I did have some fear, but I wouldn't say it was healthy because the fear for children to have with their parents is a good thing if it's healthy.
Right.
It was more because it's like respect, but it wasn't that. I was just kind of afraid of him because, I mean, he would spank us, but that was it. It wasn't. There was no balance of love and a
Right.
relationship
No
with him.
affection afterwards.
No. So it was kind of, and my mom was the opposite. So I was really close to her. So she would kind of let me do what I want, and then my dad, if I would do something wrong, my dad would discipline me, But honestly, for being not Christians, they did try. Like there's a lot of things that they really did. They did good, not salvation wise. They never told me about God. I didn't know that I was a sinner going to hell. They thought I was just a good girl, and I'm like, no, I'm not. But okay,
Yeah.
I guess because I wasn't out there partying, like I wasn't drunk all the time, partying, running away from home. But again, I was able to do stuff that I wanted, so I didn't have to do that stuff, and I really wasn't like drawn. Like I would hang out with people that would party, but I wasn't really drawn to that. Like I think I probably smoked a few times and drank, but I guess I couldn't handle it. I don't know. I just would get so sick. Like
Right.
to me, that life didn't really appeal to me at all.
Right.
Yeah.
I wonder maybe because like I guess because you live in the West Side, so I know it was kind of like
It's
ghetto.
everywhere.
So
Yeah.
I wonder if like in your mind you're thinking like, well, I don't never want to be like that. Was it like that? Like I don't want to be like this, so I'm not gonna drink or smoke, or was it just maybe because things your mom would try to teach you?
I would say probably both.
Right.
Yeah, I would say because I would saw my dad high a lot. My dad got smoked a lot, and so when he wasn't smoking, he was really like grumpy and like upset. So for one, that was a total turn off. I was like, I don't want to do that.
Right.
And also probably my mom. I would say she did have a lot of impact because I didn't really see that like coming from her. So it was all around me.
Right.
When I met my husband, he was like, he smoked, he did all that stuff. So to me, and then I got pregnant very young, so I was in mom mode real quick. So I couldn't. I mean, I guess I could. My mom could have watched him, but I was just mom. I was a teen mom, so my whole life changed. I was
Right.
just a mom early, and that was it. Like I didn't party or anything really.
And so you got pregnant at 16.
Yep, I got pregnant. We were together for a year, Renee and I. I mean, and of course it was wrong because it was fornication, but we liked each other. Of course, at the beginning of a relationship like that, it's all lust. There's no love. There's no commitment or anything. But I mean, we got along and stuff. And it wasn't until I got pregnant, like I said, what my mom had told me, the advice had told me. And I remember after that, our whole relationship changed. And something really shifts in a young girl when you give yourself away like that because it's not right. It's supposed to be for the marriage bed. It's not. It's totally wrong. And so I remember my whole mind was just like fixed on our relationship, and I completely idolized it. I idolized him. I was like, if you would just make me happy, I would be okay. I put all trust and love and affection, energy, everything in Renee, in our relationship. I wanted it to work out, and I was just, trying to change him, and I was messed up. I don't know, I think the problem a lot of times in relationships, we think we could change each other, and it's like, no, only God can do that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so by 19 we had 3 boys. I just got pregnant really quick, you know, when I was really young with him, but and I was just very, very depressed at that point of my life. I was very depressed. We were on and off. We didn't have a stable relationship. I was at his mom's, he was at my mom's. I was back and forth. I would be on the weekends by myself, you know. And what I would try to run to was different relationships, because that's all I knew. You know, I didn't, you know, I remember praying like, man, I hope he comes home safe, you know, because he would be gone all weekend and I would be there with the kids, and, you know, and I just felt stuck. Like, this is my life. I'm a teen mom. I'm young. I'm just stuck here. You know, I didn't have a vehicle. I didn't have a phone or anything. And I was really depressed. I was really broken at that time. It was about 19, 20. He would be gone like for the whole weekend, you know, and we just had a really messed up relationship. Yeah.
And your parents, when you got pregnant, you said your mom was like, "Why?" Right?
Mm-hmm.
Or how was your dad? How did he
Oh,
react?
my dad was so mad. He wanted me to have an abortion. He was like, you can't do this. Like, what are you even thinking? I was like, I obviously was not thinking, you know. And but my mom always kind of protected me, so she was like, leave her alone, you know, it's whatever she wants to do. So thank God I didn't do that, and I had my son, you know.
Right.
I'm so glad, because you know, when that happens and you're young, I mean, I wasn't even married. I was young. I would say in my mind, I had my whole life ahead of me. But then you don't think that. You're so blind, and you don't realize there's consequences to decisions.
Right.
And I didn't even, I was just being selfish and stupid. And I said, I want to be with him, and I want to be in this relationship. And then I got pregnant, you know.
Right.
And so thank God I didn't have an abortion. I'm so grateful for that. Because even when I thought of it, I remember I was so, I would say it was probably my conscience, but like convicted. I felt absolutely horrible. Like I could not. I was like, that was my first thought. Like, I can't do this. I'm too young.
Right.
But then I was like, but I can't actually do it, you know? And so I'm so glad I didn't. But I know a lot of girls probably think that's the way out, but it's not, because you have to live with that regret forever, you know, and it's major,
Right.
you know. But,
So, but were your parents there whenever, like, so whenever you had the 3 kids, 19 years old, and you were like, were they support you?
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Yes, my mom was there. She was there for me. Yeah, she was there for me. Again, our relationship was really bad, so like if I needed stuff, she was there for me. I kind of wish she was a little bit like, stop having kids, you know. But again, it was my choices. It was my choices. But you know, I was so young and naive, thinking like, you know, when you're young, you don't realize that your choices are you're gonna live with them forever.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
you just want to do what you want to do. You don't think about the future.
Right.
You just think of your feelings and emotions. Right now is what I want to do it. You know, and so of course, 19, I'm like 3 little boys. You know, and it's like, what the heck am I doing?
Right.
You know, but yeah, my parents were there. They helped out. Yeah.
It's crazy how you're saying, like, at that age you're thinking like, this is what I want no matter what. Like, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to be in a relationship. And so now, especially when, you know, we're saved, trying to help our kids or even the younger kids, that's like, no, like, don't do this because this is gonna happen. And so, like you're saying right now, at the moment when you're young, even for myself, like when I was 15, 16, I'm thinking like, no, this is what I want to do, and it doesn't matter. Like, you're not even thinking about, like you're saying, the consequences.
Right.
But wow, that's crazy. Okay, so you mentioned that you got depressed. You're depressed.
Yeah, I was really depressed.
And how did that come about?
So I remember after I had the boys, probably after my 3rd son, I just got very depressed. Like, and you know, you deal with a lot of emotions after having a baby. It's a new baby. There's a lot involved, but this was like beyond that. It was very dark. It was very depressing. It was kind of like a cloud was just over me all the time. I would be at home with the kids, and kind of like a hopeless place in life. Like, I didn't really have anything to live for. I was very depressed. Also, a lot is, I would say, it's self-pity. Like, why me? Why am I here? And again, it was me. But when you're not saved, you don't realize that. You think it's just other people. They're messed up. That's why I'm here.
And so you're asking yourself that, but what was it like? Why are you in a relationship like that, or what was it?
Like, it was just like, why? Like, because in my mind, I was like, I'm young, I have 3 kids, and I'm stuck at home. Like, Renee's out doing whatever he wants to do, and I'm here with his kids at home, so that's just selfishness because they're my kids, but
Right.
I was just very selfish, very, you know kids are a blessing, but I was just very self-centered, selfish, and I just wanted this perfect family in my mind. I just wanted a that's I think as a little girl I wanted that. I wanted a good man. I wanted a perfect family. I always wanted a lot of children, but I wanted that. Thank God I found it in Jesus later, but that's what I wanted, and it wasn't like that when I was 19. So I began to get very depressed, and I started taking medication for it, and it just made me very suicidal. So I just stopped. I was like, oh man, this is scary.
Really?
So I threw them away. Yeah, it made it a lot worse. Yeah.
Wow.
hmm
Okay, so this is when you're like 19, right? You
Yeah,
already had
I
the
was
kids,
about 19.
and then so you and Pastor Renee together. And when is it like how long after this when you heard about the church?
So I was 21. So he probably was 23, I believe. So at that point, for a long time, probably since I was like 16. Um, I mean, I did graduate high school. I graduated pregnant with my second son. Um, so from probably like 16, I started working. 16, 17, 18, 19. About 20, I didn't work. I was with the kids, right? And so I was starting to kind of rebel, I guess, in the whole situation. Like, no, I need to start working. I need to be on my own. I don't need to be in this relationship. I had not even thought of that before. I was just like, this is my life. Like, I'm going to be with him, right? And so I got a job and I started working full time. And with that came, of course, independence and money. And
Right.
so I purposely worked at night so he can be the baby, have the kids. So he would work during the day. I would be at home, and he would come home, and I would go to work. And that was not a good environment. Like I started like meeting people, and it was really bad. I started doing stuff and just lying to him like, oh, I got to go to work, and I wouldn't even go to work. And just putting myself in positions that I always said I'm never going to do that, or I would never do that. But of course, I was a slave to my sin. I couldn't control it anymore. I couldn't be like, I'm not going to, I think we always kind of lie to ourselves, deceive ourselves, like, I got it. It's under control. It's like, no, it's not. It's not. And so I began to do things that I knew which was wrong, things that I knew I was going to regret. And then, so around that time, I was probably I was about a year of me working and stuff, and our relationship was just a lot worse. We were violent towards one another.
Were you still dealing with a depression?
I was, but I think it was worse when I was by myself at home. So I was still depressed. I was still searching for like relationships, to try to like make me happy and stuff. And so I remember there was a point where I put Renee on child support, and I said, we're going to separate. Like, we cannot do this. It's not working out, I was really bitter towards him because for many years I wanted him to just be at home with us, and he wasn't. So I was very angry. I was very depressed. And it was like I had a lot of rage inside, like a lot of anger, and he did as well. So that was not a good combination. We're just very angry. With the boys, we would just fight and argue and cuss in front of them, and I was just so miserable. I just didn't want to be in the relationship. And so around that time, I put him on child support, and I remember I was like, okay, after this, we're going to separate. Like, we had already talked about it, like, it's not going to work out. So around that time, I remember he went to go throw the trash at the apartment, and he's like, oh, this guy, he came back, he said, oh, this guy gave me this, like, paper and stuff. And I was like, and we had talked about going to church before, because in my mind, I'm like, okay, maybe we need church. I kind of just thought that, Right. And I was like, maybe we need church, not Jesus or God or anything. I'm like, maybe church will fix it. And so he's like, well, I'm never going to a Christian church. I'm a Catholic. And I'm like, you don't even go to Catholic church. But and I said, well, I'm not going to a Catholic church because I know the difference. And so he's like, well, I'm not going to a Christian church. So that kind of stayed there. And so when he came and told me about the fire, I was like, well, I mean, we can check it out. But it was crazy because we had just talked about that. Right. And so I was like, so he was like, yeah, maybe. So this guy thank God for him. But I remember he knocked on our door. I guess Renee had told him we would go, but he knocked on our door and he's like, oh, hey, I want to pick y'all up for church. And I was like, no, we're not ready. Like, we gave him so many excuses, this guy, but he was very persistent. Thank God he was persistent. And I was like, oh, no, we're not ready. He said, I'll wait for you. No problem. And then I'm like, no, I have the boys, like, because they were like really bad behaved kids. And he's like, it's all right. We have a nursery. And I'm like, what? and then so Renee's like, no, our car doesn't work. He's like, I have a big old van. And I remember I was like, let's just get ready. So we got ready and we went. That was May 5th, 2004. And I remember going into it was a little church on West Avenue. And I remember taking the kids to nursery, sitting there in service. And I don't even remember what was preached. I don't remember any of that. I do remember sitting there, and at the altar call, I remember Pastor said, does anybody want to get saved? And I remember I just raised my hand. I was like, I think this is what I need, And so we both prayed. And initially I didn't really feel different, but I remember that was in the evening service. I remember going home, and I remember waking up, and I remember feeling so different. Like, I remember waking up, and it was like, whoa. Like, I remember hearing noises from outside. Like, I heard the birds, and this sounds so weird, but it's kind of like I was alive. Like, I was alive again. Like, I heard the birds outside, and like my eyes were open, and I was like, oh wow, like I feel different. Something happened. Something
right.
definitely happened. And so I remember that when we went to church, Pastor said, you got saved, so tell someone. So I remember the next day I was going to bingo. The first and only time I went to bingo, but with one of my sister-in-laws, and she's like, oh, so how have you been? I was like, I got saved. And she's like, what? And I was like, I went to church and I got saved. And she's like, oh, okay. But I remember we were thinking like the pastor said to tell someone, so I have to tell someone. So I remember telling her, and but God just began to like show me so much. He began to give me different desires. I felt so free. Like, I felt the depression was gone. I didn't cuss anymore. I used to cuss so much. I remember going into my truck, and I remember hearing like 98.5. I remember that. And I remember thinking like, ew, like these songs are so nasty. But I wasn't saved, so I didn't care. I didn't, So God began to like really change my life. He began to, me and Renee, we stopped sleeping together. He just did like a miracle. Yeah.
And before you went to the church, did anybody like when you were going through your relationship with Renee, and all that, and the depression, anybody witnessed you? Did you ever think about going to church, or like, hey, maybe like I need to give my life to God? Any of that ever occurred during all that time?
No, the only time that I could remember, and again, I had said that I went to church with my mom. No one ever approached me, which is such a shame. Like, I was obviously not saved, going to hell, and they really didn't even say, come up here if you want to get saved or raise your hand. They would just say, bow your head and pray. So even then, you don't know who's, responding. I remember one of the churches my mom went to, I guess she had shared with them that I was depressed. So I remember this, the only thing that sticks out that it was the closest to like hearing salvation. There's a guy that came and he was praying over my apartment, and I remember he shared his testimony with me. I vaguely remember it, but that was different. Like, he was basically sharing his testimony. Now that I'm saved, I know what he was doing. But at the time I was like, this is weird, I thought it was weird that they were walking around my house praying for my house. But now I'm like, well, yeah, they probably knew this girl needs,
Yeah.
And so that's probably the only thing I could point out, that it was kind of about like salvation or true testimony of someone being changed. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, so you come to the church, you get saved, both of y'all get saved, right?
Yeah.
And then tell us, like, what did you think about the church? What did you think about the people, the preaching, the people?
Oh, I loved it all. It was really awesome. I really liked it. I would say I kept going because one of the reasons is because people really loved us.
Right.
Like, my boys were really, really bad kids. Like, we didn't discipline them. So I let them do whatever. I would tell them, go to timeout, which is dumb because that doesn't work. But that's all I knew. I didn't have any direction in how to be, discipline my children and stuff. But I remember one time one of the girls was like, the one that followed up on me, she was like, let's go eat. And I was like, oh, no, it's okay. I didn't take my kids out in public because they were really bad. They would like scream and run around and like stuff. And she was like, it's okay. And I'm like, are you sure? But I was so like, I wasn't used to that. People just really, really loved us. Right. And just helped us. We had questions, they would answer the questions, and it was really awesome. Right. They helped me a lot. Yeah.
Wow. And so what did your so you were 21 at the
I was
time?
21. Yeah.
Right. And then so you get saved, and what did your friends, family, your parents, what did they think about that?
Yeah, well, we just began to talk, to witness to everybody, all our family. I would say probably almost all our family came at one point, because we just got saved and we were just a part of the church. Every time they were doing something, we're like, we're going to be there.
Right.
Um, outreaches, we would go, like Bible studies. I still have like the notebooks from my first Bible study because it was so awesome. Like I remember I was like, I love this. Like this was a whole new world. Like
Right.
Christians, I was like, where have y'all been all my
Yeah.
life? Like I come into this church and these people are real and they love us and they are not, because I always wanted to raise my children different.
Right.
Like I didn't want to raise them, my dad would have, he loved boxing, so we would have boxing. He knew some musicians, so they would have like bands at the house, and everybody was always partying, always drinking, always laughing, always, and I remember thinking like, man, I just wish I didn't have to raise my kids like that.
Right.
But I just thought, this is our life, and so I remember coming to the church, like the kids were like well behaved, and I would look around like, how do they have them sitting down? And they would just do things, that were so different from what I was used to, and I loved it. It was just a whole nother world, and I really, really liked it.
Right.
So we just stuck. We were like, we're just gonna go all in and live for God. We didn't know what that meant or what that really was, but I would look around the church and I'm like, man, these people, I want to be like that. I want to be a good wife. I would see women in the church, and I would be like, I want to love my husband like that. I want to, be a good mom. We didn't get married right away. We did separate for about 7 months. I didn't realize, well, I mean, I knew it was wrong, but I never heard the word, which sounds funny, but the word fornication, I never really heard it. So I remember Pastor preached a sermon and all I heard was fornication. Like it just stuck out. Like he was just basically saying fornication, fornication. And I remember thinking like, oh, that word sounds so bad. Right. So I asked the girl who was following up on me, like, what does that mean? And she's like, that's how you're living with Renee. And I was like, oh, wow. So I was like, I mean, I asked, so she told me, and I remember thinking like, wow. So she said, yeah, so you either separate or get married, and we ended up separating for 7 months. And that probably, second to getting saved, that was a major decision. And I'm so glad we separated, because a lot of the times, couples get married, which is good because you're no longer in sin, right? But we had so much baggage. God needed to heal my heart. I was real bitter. I was real messed up in my mind and how I saw people, how I saw him. So I believe I needed to take Renee off the throne in my life and put God there. And I needed just a solid relationship with Jesus. And I needed that time with him. And
so were y'all both, whenever y'all decided to separate, how was that? Like, did y'all take it like?
No, we didn't separate on good terms. I would say that.
Right.
But I believe it was God that we didn't get married right away. I really believe that, because I think initially, and Pastor probably would have married us like, hey, yeah, you want to get married? Fine, that's good. But I think, and I remember when that girl told me that, I remember in my head, like, we'll get married. Like, we have 3 kids. We're just going to get married. But I'm glad we didn't. Like, right. So what ended up happening was, it was on a weekend, and I think he was still drinking. And I remember I got so upset, like, why are you still drinking? Like, we're Christians now, like, stop drinking. And so, of course, it would have to be his choice. But I remember I was so angry. He blew up, I blew up. We got in a really bad argument. So I remember going to that girl's house from church, and she was like, I think you need to talk to Pastor. And I was like, how? And she's like, call him on the phone. And I'm like, I could call Pastor on the phone? Like, that was so cool. But I was like, okay. So he kind of told me, like, well, maybe you should move out for a little bit. And I was like, yeah, it was the best thing for us. Right. So I said, yeah. So I moved back with my parents. And so we had an apartment. So he stayed there at the apartment. And so it was good for him also, because when he made that decision to surrender, maybe a couple months later, he had an apartment. He didn't have to go back to his mom's, because there was he would buy all his drugs like right in that neighborhood. So I was with my parents for about 6-7 months. Yeah, when we separated.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so y'all lived in the West Side, right? Even in the apartments?
Yes.
Oh, okay, okay. Wow, okay. So y'all get married, and then what? Tell us.
So we get married. That. Yeah. It was really awesome. So even like when we were like not really courting, but kind of courting, it was so clean. Like it felt so awesome. It was so different. Right. It was worth the separating. People are like, oh my gosh, 7 months. And I'm like, no, it flew by actually. So we would only see each other in fellowships. Like we were never alone. So we got married, and I mean, my husband was changed. Like he was so different, like night and day different. Like he was changing, and he would like preach to everyone. And I would see he wanted to be a better person, a better husband, a better like father and stuff. And so again, I mean, I was raised with affection and stuff from my mom, but he was not. So he learned, both of us did. We learned a lot of stuff by the preaching, by reading the Word of God, like how to be a good parent, how to be a good wife and husband and stuff. Because a lot of the times we're not raised that way. So, and so we have to basically let God change us, to be better like that. But after we got married, it was God, it was awesome. Yeah, it was what I wanted as a little girl, but not realizing like the right way to do it. Yeah, we had 3 little boys. We got married. We had the 3 boys. We still live in an apartment.
How old were they?
So they were about 3, 2, and 1.
Oh man.
Yeah, they were little. Yeah. They were little guys. When we got married, they were about, I think maybe even 4, 3, and 2, but they were still very small. They were still very little. Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
That's cool,
and so their whole life was in church. Like,
yeah,
their whole life. I'm not sure if Nene, I've actually never asked him, but I don't know if he remembers, because if anybody would, he would, because he was a little bit older. But we raised him, like Angel definitely, he was a baby. So, and Christian too, they were very small. So that all they knew was living for God. All they knew was mom and dad living for God, and we had 3 children after that. And so they never knew that lifestyle. Like they never were exposed to any of that stuff. We were really careful, like what they were around and stuff, So yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. That's cool. Okay, so I just want to fast forward a little bit to. Okay, so for those y'all don't know, in the church, in the fellowship, the fellowship is reach the lost, make disciples, and plant churches. So, you and your husband ended up getting sent out to go preach, right?
Yes.
Can you touch a little bit on that?
Sure. So we got sent out to the west side, and
first, what did you think about the whole maybe being sent out and doing that?
I thought it was awesome. Right. We did. I mean, it's basically what we do in the Mother Church,
right?
But so I mean, I kind of knew, just being a part and just kind of throwing yourself into it, you're just kind of a part, and you just kind of have that desire, to want to do something for God. So, I mean, we will witness to people, follow up, work with people. So that's basically practice, right? So, so I was excited about it. My husband was. I knew he was called to preach. I don't remember like when we talked about it, but I remember going to conference. I would say conference is a place where, I mean, if you don't know if you're called to preach, or maybe you do know, conference is like the place to at least go and experience, because it's a whole nother dimension. And it's people from all over the world, from our fellowship. It's amazing. So God really did speak to me a lot through the conferences. But so I kind of already knew we were going to get sent out. I didn't know any specifics about it. But I remember we were in conference, and he gives me a paper, right? And he's like, and I open it, and he says, we're getting sent out Friday. I was like, okay. In my mind, I'm like, what dress am I wearing? No, but because it wasn't a surprise to me. I already knew like that was what we're going to do, and I was totally fine with it. I was like, all right, yeah. And so,
and how long were y'all saved then already before y'all got sent out?
So we got sent out, we got saved 2004. We got sent out 2012, I think.
A few years then.
Yeah, right. We were saved a good while. Yeah, and then we got sent out that January.
Like 8 years.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. Okay, so how was it for you? Because as far as like a wife, because really there's no like manual for it. How do I do this? So how was it for you, like as a wife, as a pastor's wife, and all that?
Being out.
Right.
I mean, for me, I just still did what I did when we were at the Mother Church. Just be a wife, support my husband, and it's honestly, I think to me, it's mainly supporting your husband. It's a call. We're both called, but he needs my support, and I follow him. So it's not something, and I already knew that. I completely, even to this day, I'm like, I'll follow you, babe. Anywhere you want to go, I'll follow you. Not to hell, but I'll follow you anywhere else. I've always made that joke with him. But so I already knew he was called. To me, it was like my place. I'm gonna keep taking care of him. Initially, he's the first. First and foremost is taking care of my husband and my children, and just loving the people that God gives us. If to me, that's what I did. Like, that's the whole part of it. There's going to be outreaches, and I'll go if I can. I can if I can. I can. But
And how was that? Was that easy for you? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
How was it for you, like to like minister to people, to love on people, like strangers? How was that? Was that easy, hard?
I don't think that's the hard part. I think I can pretty easily talk to people, love people. Yes, like it doesn't. It's when they're, it's when you come against like those who are like opposed, or those who are. It's kind of harder when they start getting locked in. For a good 6 months, we had a good flow of solid people, and they would. But it's just when they want to start making stand, they have to start making stands. It's kind of like, okay, yes, we love you, but you got to start making decisions.
Right.
That's, I would say, is the harder part. But loving people and inviting them and fellowshipping, we could do that all day. It's not. That's not, to me. That's not the difficult part. To me, it's just watching them, and it's like, they come to that place where it's like they're at a crossroads, and that's even with children. I would say when they're at a crossroads and they have to make a decision, and that decision, it's either gonna curse them or bless them, literally. Like, it's either going to be great and good outcome, or they're going to really have a lot of regrets. I think that's the hard part. Yeah, in pioneering.
And so you were out for like 6-7 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so the kids, they follow suit.
Kids, yeah. They were such a blessing. My children are such a blessing. I love them so much, in the church and out of the church. But I mean, like, being sent out and even having them now, it's such a blessing having children. But yeah, they were like all doing something, like a soundboard, and even before we got sent out, they were ushering already. They were already kind of involved in ministry of their own. So, but when we were out, they just did it. Whether they never really told us they didn't want to do it, but it was just kind of like, this is what we do. This is a family. This is what we do. So yeah, instruments, soundboard, they were a real blessing to us. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, and then y'all come back in 2019 and 20. Because when I got there, y'all already there.
Mm-hmm.
I think y'all just came back in. And so, okay, when y'all get back, when you came back, how was that coming back to the mother church and just getting involved again?
Well,
was it hard for you, like, coming back?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I would say it was very hard for me. I would say because, like, we were out for a while, and we were saved at the other building. So a lot of the people, the main ladies that I was really close to, they backslid. So like when I came back, I was like, where are my friends? And there was a whole fresh wave of revival there, like young couples. It was wonderful to see, but I kind of felt like, okay, where do I fit in here? And I think probably that's what we deal with as coming back home. Like, where do we fit? Because I still wanted to be a blessing. Like, whatever you need, Miss Sally or Pastor, like, we want to be a blessing, but it's like, where do we fit in this? And it's just, letting them know, seeing a need, meeting it, even small needs, not necessarily up their ministry, but just seeing different needs in the church and just meeting them. That's what I kind of focused on.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. Okay, so what are some things that you want God to do? Like, what are some things you want to see with your kids, your husband, ministry? What are some things you want to see, or even some things that God's been doing in your life lately?
Well, we had our first grandbaby, and I thank God for that. And it's a blessing because, like I said before, I was a teen mom. My husband has a couple children from another relationship, so we were young parents. And we were not married, in sin. And my granddaughter was born in a marriage, in the house of God. And I'm so grateful for that, because that's just God. Because I know who me and my husband are. I know who we are, but it's just the grace of God to change us, and we're able to raise our children in His house, And it's a miracle that I see my granddaughter. I'm like, oh, baby, you're being raised in church, in God's house, And that is what I claim for all of my grandchildren. I'm believing God to save all my children, that they would all be raised in church and just be surrendered to God, however God wants to use them, And I don't know what God has for me and my husband in the future, but I mean, I'm good. I'll follow my husband. Yeah.
Did you ever think that all this will come to pass? Like when you were younger, you
Never.
being getting saved, and getting
Yeah.
married, having grandchildren, all
Yeah.
that.
Never. I never. And that's why it's like, man, I see like our kids, our church kids, and I'm thinking like, we were not raised in church, so we
Right.
don't. And they were, and I think a lot of times they think, man, we're missing out, or
Right.
man, if
Right.
they could.
Right.
And us coming from the world, it's like, no, this is something I wish I was raised in church,
Right. Right.
because my heart wouldn't have been broken so many times. I wouldn't be so depressed and just, dead in my sin at such a young age. Being a teen mom, thinking, imagine sitting in an abortion clinic like that. They commit murder there. Like, you don't even realize the
Right.
protection of being raised in church.
Right.
And I have friends who've been through so many different, so many really bad situations, and I'm like, not that it can't happen, but there's more of a protection and covering and serving God. And it's like, man, I think about it now, and I wish I would have gotten saved a lot sooner. Like, I
Right.
wish. It's a whole nother world. It's like, it's amazing. It's
Right.
just amazing to live for God and to see Him. He's so real. Like, he's wonderful. It's like the perfect man I was looking for, the perfect everything I was looking for many years. I found it in Jesus. I found it in Him. He's so amazing, and he'll never leave me. I think that's he's perfect. Like, he's everything I've ever wanted.
Right.
That I didn't get in my dad, that I didn't get in Renee, that I didn't get in my children, or even myself. I found it in Him.
Right.
And it's like, man, I ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Earlier, you made a statement, and you said that when you were younger, you wanted a bunch of kids. You wanted you wanted the whole family life,
Yes.
and it's like you got it.
I did.
And
Yes.
thank God, that's awesome. I was gonna tell you, and I mentioned this before, that you and your husband and your family have been like even a blessing to us. Your exampleship, everything y'all do. When I first came to the church, and I told your husband this, and I always tell him this, and I mention it to people in the church all the time, that I always look at certain men in the church, and I looked at your family, how you treated each other, how you treated your kids, and even now, like, some of your kids are not saved, but raising them up in church, and yeah, of course they're gonna make decisions later on, but they're not just out here like murdering
Right.
people and doing all crazy stuff. So even that, like, even the Bible says that the kids are holy and they're set apart just because the
Yes.
parents are saved. So I just want to thank you and your husband for your exampleship, and thank you for always checking on my wife and always being there for her. And I just want to let you know you and your family have been a big blessing to us. So I thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Angel.
And so I appreciate that.
that.
Another thing too, before we go, if you could just leave a few words of encouragement to any young girl out there who's gone through the same things you went through, going through things right now, or maybe not, maybe they're not even bad kids, or they're not bad people. What are some words you'll leave them with?
I would say, definitely to young girls. I think when I was younger, I tried to look for my worth and basically my identity, and I never found it. Like, men can never give you what Jesus can give you. Like, and it began when I was very young, getting compliments all the time, thinking like, I'm happy. Like, people think this about me, I'm happy. It makes, but it's so empty. So whether you know about Jesus or you don't, He's the only one. You don't have to learn the hard way. You give Jesus your life, and He completes everything. Like, He completes everything. And even in the Word of God, there are answers for everything that we go through in life are in the Word of God. And I just encourage you, give your life to God. Don't waste time. If you have unsaved children, believe God that God's going to save them, because I do. I believe all my children will be saved one day and be living for God. But I would just say, stop wasting time. We're in the last days, and you have no time to think about it. Like, just do it. Do it now. Give your life to God and surrender, and you will never regret it.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to give your life to Jesus Christ, just pray this simple prayer with me real quick. Say, Father God, I'm a sinner in need of a Savior. I ask that you forgive me of all my sin. Come into my heart and be my Lord and Savior. I believe you died on the cross and rose the third day. Thank you for forgiving me of all my sin. If you prayed that prayer and you need a church to go to, come in, that number on the bottom of the screen, come in contact with us, and we'll help you find a local church to go to and start living for God. Thank you.
Got 2 lanes on the one way. Got 2 lanes